All right, welcome to the AVNI Interviews. We're your hosts, Eric Bork and Mikey Taylor.
What up?
We're the co-founders of AVNI, a brand for entrepreneurs and influencers. Here on the AVNI Interviews, we interview people doing the work they want and the lifestyle they love to help other people do the same thing. Today, we are here with the founder and CEO of Fit Body Bootcamp with more than 700 franchise locations. Bedros Keuilian and his family escaped communism and came to the United States in California, where Bedros, as a serial entrepreneur, started his own gym of physical trainers and grew this business into what it is today, which is a beast. Bedros is one of the most sought-after secret weapons in the fitness industry, and we are excited to be here interviewing him today at his HQ. Bedros, thank you so much for having us out.
Thanks for having me, fellas.
Yeah, thank you. So it's funny, man. What I've noticed going through the transition I did is how many people you can really connect or meet through Instagram. And that's really, I think, why we're here today. Why don't you kind of tell us what led to you and I connecting and getting up 2 interviews in one day done?
Yeah, crazy connection there. So our mutual friend, Randall Pitch, right? And Randall, you knew him because you were starting a podcast. And of course, Omar, who has the Passionate Few podcast, was like, hey, I can get Randall Pitch on there. And you're like, holy hell, let's do it. And of course, Randall told me about you when he came and sat in on this mastermind. And the way I know Randall is a funny story because years before I knew him as the Live Fit guy, by the way, I was buying Live Fit stuff and wearing it before he ever started sending me stuff for free, you know? And I'm always grateful. And when he sends me something and I like it, I'll go and buy like 3 or 4 more for my team members upstairs, you know? Like his backpacks. We all carry the backpacks. But so when I had these courses to help personal trainers learn to sell and market, generate referrals, build out their personal training gyms, well, Randall had bought it's called the Art of Selling Fitness course. And he had an outdoor boot camp in Long Beach. And he was using my course to grow his boot camp. And so years before I ever bought any of his products, he had used my program to build his personal training business. And then, of course, created the shirts to market his personal training business or his outdoor boot camp. And then the shirts took off. The story that he told me was, people started posting it on Facebook and like, hey, how do I get a Live Fit shirt? How do I get a Live Fit shirt? Before you know it, he's selling more Live Fit shirts than boot camp membership. He goes, I think I got something here. So about 2 years ago, I finally got on Instagram because I'm like, I think there's something to this Instagram here, fellas. I was a late starter to Instagram. So people who are like, wow, you have all this wisdom. Like, how do you know all this stuff? It's like, man, for almost a decade and a half, I've been on YouTube and Facebook, like just killing it, And so anyway, I just reached out to Randall. I'm like, hey man, I just want to let you know, it's cool to see how you're using Instagram. Like I'm learning a lot from you and I wear your gear, like all the Live Fit stuff. Thank you. And he goes, you don't know me, do you? I'm like, no. He goes, actually, I've bought your courses years ago. So that was the connection there. So he tells me about you as you're telling me about him. Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny.
It's nuts.
So let's our audience is going to love this story. Your story is incredibly unique. And why don't we kind of start from the beginning of you guys are, where did this whole thing start? I know is that you dealt with communism. Were you in
Tell us, the early childhood. Tell us about like where it started.
Yeah. Well, where it started was in Armenia. And at the time, Armenia, Ukraine, all those Soviet countries were under the Soviet rule, right? So under communist rule. And the year was 1980. I was 6 years old. My dad has this wild idea that we're going to escape communist Russia. Now, doing that immediately, if you get caught, you're sent to Siberia and killed. And so he was a member of the Communist Party, add on top of that. So to be a defector, so 18% of the population there in the Soviet Union was an actual party member. And if you're a member of the Communist Party, even though they give you, hey, do you want to be a Communist Party member? They give you a choice. If you say no, again, off to Siberia. A lot of roads lead to Siberia there, right? Yeah. And you don't come back from that. But my brother, who was significantly 14 years older than me, was about to go into the Russian army, the Soviet army, and he was going to go to war to Afghanistan. So before the U.S. was ever fighting Afghanistan, the Soviets were. And my dad's like, the hell if my son's going to go fight in Afghanistan for the Soviet Union when we're Armenian and we're just occupied by the Soviet Union. My son's turning 19. Before he ships off, we're going to escape. So he put together 25,000 rubles, which is the Russian denomination, and he bribed the Soviet government, and we escaped into Italy.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? How do you bribe that?
Dude, it's crazy.
And what did your mom think at this point? Were you guys tripping? You were probably too young to know.
I was 6 years old, so as long as I'm with mom and dad, like imagine your kids, right? Like as long as they're with you and your wife, like, oh, okay, it's safe.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm just like, oh, we must be going on a trip of some sort. No one tells me anything, right? Yeah. I'm 6 years old. But older brother, older sister, they're kind of hip to what's going on. One's 18, one's 22 years old. My sister was 22. But the way my dad, so he planned this out a couple years before. And for 2 years, so he worked in a men's suits alteration plant. And, they give you these paper patterns of the vest and the suit jacket and the pants, and you put it on the material and you cut out the material. Well, you could have so much spoilage. He put the patterns so tightly together that he would, for every 10 suits he would make, he would have enough material left over to make one other suit. He would smuggle that out, take it home, make suits for KGB members in the community. Right? The equivalent of the CIA members, right? Of CIA agents, KGB members. And so he's selling suits like in back alleys to KGB directors and stuff. And these and of course, they're buying suits for cheap, right?
Yeah.
But custom made for them instead of off the rack. And so they figure out that he's trying to raise money to do something with it. They ask him. He has a trust and relationship with one guy who says, hey, you know what? Good for you. I'd leave too if I could, but for whatever reason, he was tied into the country, and so that guy connects him with someone in the Soviet consulate that puts a stamp on our passport that we're going to visit my mom's sister, who doesn't exist, in Italy, because remember, Italy at the time was a Soviet sympathizer, communist sympathizer, right? And so like this elaborate story was made up that so my dad paid this guy 25,000 rubles to let us visit Italy. And so because we were visiting, all we could do was take 2 suitcases because you can't make it look obvious. So we had to leave everything behind. Wow. Everything. My dad was doing pretty well out there, but he believed in the American way. He wore Jordache jeans, Ray-Ban sunglasses, Adidas shoes, right? He listened to Elvis and the Beach Boys. Like I heard Elvis and the Beach Boys before ever coming out to the United States.
Amazing.
And so it was one of those things where my dad was like, I'm American through and through. I want my kids to be raised American. I just happen to be in this fucking communist country. And so he bribed. We got to to Italy, and then from Italy it took 10 days to find the American consulate and get let in. And my dad's like, look, I'm a communist. I know you guys hate the communists. I'll tell you everything you need to know, but we just want to legally enter the United States. And on the 11th day, they did the paperwork and let us in, and we flew to JFK. From JFK to Southern California, and everyone was like, why Southern California? My dad hated the snow. He knew nobody in the United States. He just knew a friend's friend who had a 2-bedroom apartment in Southern California, in Anaheim, kind of Cypress area. And the guy said, all right, for 30 days, you and your family of 5 can live in one of the spare bedrooms. So for 30 days, we lived in his spare bedroom. By day 2, my dad had a paper route. Day 3, he had a paper route and was a busboy at a pizzeria. By day 4, paper route, busboy, and then pumping gas at an Arco, because we had to get out by 30 days. And so he was putting together money. My brother and sister all got side jobs. My mom got jobs, multiple jobs. And in 30 days, we had our own little 1-bedroom apartment. We found a used mattress that we slept on, used television to watch, used couch, And I was the breadwinner. That's the crazy thing. And people
That's
like,
6 years old?
Yeah. My dad's like, everyone's like, how are you the breadwinner? All the money had to go towards getting the apartment and then funding the, electricity, water, right? And gas. And so my dad had discovered when he was working at Arco, there was a grocery store called Alpha Beta. Alpha Beta had a giant dumpster behind it. They would throw away food that was expired but hadn't gotten rotten yet. So they can't sell it.
Yeah.
So my dad would lift me up into these dumpsters, being the smallest of the family. It was a treasure hunt for me. He's like, all right, get the gallon of milk, get the eggs, get the lettuce, get the tomato. And if the lettuce had some bad leaves on it, my mom would just peel it off, right? Or if the cheese had some mold, you peel it off and you eat it. So for the first year, man, I was getting the food out of the dumpsters while my parents and my older brother and sister were working to keep a roof over our head. But fuck, what an experience that was.
Did you think anything was out of the ordinary?
I didn't like it because this is the nutty part, and then this is actually an exclusive for your show. Every morning in Armenia, I would wake up and have hot tea with sourdough bread and caviar on it. My mom, it was called milica. Milica means police officers, right? I don't know why she called it, but she would line up a whole bunch of little pieces of sourdough, like 10 or 15 pieces, put a little caviar on it, make me hot tea, and I'd eat it with my hot tea. So when you're eating breakfast, caviar for breakfast,
oh, wow.
and then you come to a country, you don't speak English, don't understand the culture, people are yelling at you, telling you to go back to your own fucking country, you don't have your own room anymore, the 5 of you are staying in some guy's bedroom, food is scarce, you're going to bed hungry, you get lice because you're living in Section 8 housing, and your mom's washing your hair with gasoline that she had my dad siphon out from a parked car. I did not enjoy that process at all, and I couldn't understand it. Where's my caviar? Where's my hot tea? Where are my friends?
So did this experience almost feel worse for you? Like, why don't we go back home?
I had a chip on my shoulder, yeah. I didn't know that we couldn't go back home, and I realized this is going to be our home, so I had to make do. But dude, they put me in school. The second day of school, I ran away. The principal, well, you know, it's in the book, but the principal's chasing me down the street one way, because imagine like a kindergarten running down the street, right? Like that already is like bad. Like, oh my, you let a student escape? They've already called my mom, and my mom's figured out that her son's running out of school. So she's coming down this way, I'm going that way. Now we're at a Mexican standoff with the principal and my mom, and I don't want either of them to fucking get me. So I see a broken beer bottle on the ground. I get it, and I tell my and I tell my mom in Armenia, I'm like, tell him if he gets any closer, I'm going to cut myself, right? I didn't know what else to do, but I didn't want to be in a school where kids are yelling at me, laughing at me. I raised my hand to go pee on day one. Teacher told me to sit down because I didn't know like how to. I started speaking Armenian, so I got up to go pee. She yelled at me one more time, so I just sat there on the carpet and peed. So what do kids think of you when that happens? You don't want to be in class the next day, do you? So you fucking book it. You make a run for it.
Yeah,
that's what I did.
We're like a fraction of the way through, and this so far could be like in a movie in itself.
It's nuts.
Oh my god!
So tell us about as you started to adjust, what childhood experiences led to being an entrepreneur?
Well, as I started to adjust, you know, what really happened was within year 4 or 5 of being in the United States, by this point I'd gone to 3 elementary schools, 3 junior highs, and 2 high schools. Moved around a lot, right?
Kicked out of them or just?
We just moved around a lot. Yeah, the only one I got kicked out of was actually the high school. The first high school I got kicked out of for getting in a fight, went to a different high school. Everything else we just moved around a lot and went to different districts. But we moved around a lot, and my dad was in the process of multiple jobs, trying to buy a store so he can open up a little tailor shop, right? Alterations. So he opens up his tailor shop, and of course after school they would pick me up and bring me to the shop, and I would see my dad, you know, some guy like picks up his pants that he got hemmed, and my dad goes, would you like the socks? The socks would look very nice with these pants. And he'd upsell them a pair of socks. Or would you like the tie? The tie would look very good. And so he would upsell them when he had like little trinkets hanging, right? Socks and bow ties and ties and all this stuff. And so I learned salesmanship, entrepreneurship by watching my dad. And I realized, hey, this is probably something I'd want to do. Now, of course, like everyone else, I got out of high school, and to me, fitness was a big thing because I grew up as a fat kid, and senior year of high school, I wanted to ask this girl, Nakaya, out to the prom. And so I was like, okay, the best thing to do is lose weight and come back senior year, jacked. And she'd be like, dude, you should take me to the prom. That's how I saw it in my head, Mikey, right? Not quite how it worked out. I did come back, and I wasn't jacked because in 3 months, you know, I lost maybe 30 pounds, which was great. And so I was just skinny. But I was still insecure, low confident. And so never asked her to the prom. But the good news is, never went to the prom, but it changed my trajectory. I got out of high school and I said, I want to help more people achieve results through working out because I loved it. And so I got certified as a personal trainer. Here's what sold me. I'm reading these muscle magazines all summer to get workout routines. And the back of the magazines, there's these fractional ads that say, get certified as a personal trainer, earn $100 an hour. Call 1-800, whatever. I can do the math. Okay, if I train just 6 customers a day at $100, that's $600 a day, fellas. Do that 4 days a week. I got a 3-day weekend. I'm good.
Yeah.
Right? So I got certified, realized this is embarrassing. I was charging $11 an hour. No one's going to pay me $100 an hour, right?
Okay.
They said up to, and I didn't read the fine print, and whatever. I was excited, right? Yeah. So I was charging $11 an hour, had 3 clients, so I got a side job at Disneyland. I was a bouncer at a gay bar because when you work at Disneyland, you meet a lot of great gay employees there. It is the happiest place on earth, after all, and I still have some of the dearest, closest friends of mine who I've met from Disneyland, but I was complaining to them like, man, I'm a personal trainer and I have this job as a fry cook and I still need more money. And this guy, Randy, he's like, well, there's this bar I go to, and if you don't mind working with around gay guys, gay people, you can go work there. They're going to pay more as for a bouncer than a straight bar would. I'm like, well, Randy, I work with you guys here all the time. Fucking A, point me at him. Make an introduction. So I was working at this restaurant that would turn into a bar at night called Oz off the 5 freeway as a bouncer, and I hated it because skinheads would come in at night to gay bash, which is why they were paying bouncers more. Because,
You
bro,
actually had to
I'm not a
work.
fighter, man. I don't want trouble. I look big. I work out to be healthy, but I'm not a fighter. I could talk my way out of any fight. These motherfuckers were coming in with lead pipes and chains and
Jeez.
yeah. So that didn't last long. I was like, I don't want to work here.
How old are you at this point?
So at that point, I was probably around 23, 24 years old.
And
Yeah.
is this before stealing cars or after stealing cars?
This was after stealing cars.
Okay.
Yeah. I was. There was a time that I was carjacking. God, it's so embarrassing to talk about that, but it's the truth, so we must talk about it. I was carjacking, and in fact, in one scenario, there was a home invasion robbery. I was the getaway driver. My friends went into the house. In our defense, this is not my defense, by the way. In our defense, she was not supposed to be home.
Okay.
The lady was home. The fellas ran in, spooked her out. They got spooked out. They come running back out, tell me to step on it. And I'm like, that was quick. I step on it, but how fast are you going to go with the 1979 Toyota pickup, right? So she spots my yellow Toyota pickup. And before you know it, I'm on La Palma and the 5 freeway, and I see a helicopter. I'm like, oh shit, fellas, hang on, here we go. And I step on it, and I'm still going the same speed. But anyway, couldn't ditch the cops. So here, the good news is this. This was a big turning curve in my life. When the cops finally came in on us, there was like all types of unmarked police cars around us. We didn't even realize it. It wasn't just a helicopter car. Like, they literally just closed in, boxed me in the gas station, and we were fucked, face down. Well, they bring the lady, and she goes, that guy, and that guy, and she looks at me, and she can't identify me because I wasn't in the house. That saved my ass.
That saved you, huh?
That saved my ass. And from there, I was like, I'm going to be on the straight and narrow.
Love it. Tell me a little bit, or tell us a little bit about being a busboy. You mentioned that in the book.
Yeah. So at Disneyland, if you work in any kind of restaurant scenario, everyone starts at the bottom of the totem pole. I worked Main Street restaurants, and twice a day, Carnation Cafe was the busiest restaurant on the planet, not just in the United States, because there was a Main Street electrical parade, right? And people would line up on Main Street to watch the parade, and Carnation Cafe was only one of 2 sit-down restaurants that had servers, and so we had an outdoor patio, and so people would want to eat there. So I'm talking about, like, dude, you don't just, like, if you bust one table and go back, someone will punch you in the face. You got to bust like 5 or 6 tables, have a bus tub full, holding it up this. Like, I have one shoulder still more jacked than the other because of the years at Disneyland. But I was a busboy. It's the most unrespected job. You smell like hot dogs and ketchup and whatever. The hostesses are yelling at you, hurry up, bus faster. The servers get mad at you if you bust their station all at once, because now they had 8 people sit at once, right? 8 tables, and now they can't keep up with 8 of them. So if you really hate someone, by the way, and you're a busboy, you just bust their stations all at once, or you leave their stations full of shit and they never make tips, right? But anyway, so we had like our busboy mafia going on at Carnation Cafe. But I soon worked my way up to a fry cook, and then a dinner cook, and then ultimately a sous chef before I left. So technically I am a chef before I left Disneyland to pursue a career as a full-time personal trainer.
And it sounded like in the research that we did that your clients that you trained were a big help to you getting started.
Huge. And, this is why I say I'm the Cinderella man. Like, I talked about how I changed schools so many times being young. Well, each time you change schools, you have to make new friends, right?
Yeah.
You have to make them quick. And so it's like, man, fellas, good to meet you. All right, we're playing basketball. Great. We're digging holes and trying to dig to China. Great. Because I don't know if my parents are getting evicted again or if we're moving again. So that ability to build rapport today helps me as an entrepreneur. I can build rapport so quickly, whether it's in person, in front of a camera, in sales copy that I'm writing, it doesn't matter. And so little did I know that I was having this like on-the-job training. And so when I was a personal trainer, well, who could really afford one-on-one personal training? People who are affluent, maybe they're entrepreneurs, they make good money. And so one of my personal training clients, his name is Jim Franco, he still owns a business called Autolog. If you go to AutoZone, they have the computers there. You go 69 Chevy, and they go, here's the filter for it. They look it up in his software. And I go, hey, Jim, you drive up in a Mercedes, and the next day you drive up in a Cadillac Escalade. Like, what do you do? He goes, kid, I take a little bit of money from a lot of people. I'm like, all right, how does that work? He goes, I have software and a subscription, and all these auto parts stores pay me for it. Okay, got it. And I'm complaining to him about the fact that, like, man, how do I get more clients? He goes, well, you're a horrible closer. You don't know how to sell. I go, no, I sold you on a 6-month, 3-time-a-week personal training program. How dare you say that, right? He goes, no. You're an order taker. You just took my order. I knew I wanted to work out 3 days a week with a trainer. You just took my order. And that deflated me, because this whole time I thought, like, I know my industry. I'm a good trainer. I know how to sell and market myself. I didn't know any of that stuff. I was a decent trainer, but nothing else. So the next day he shows up with a cassette tape from Tom Hopkins, who does real estate sales. And he goes, here, kid, listen to this. And of course, being fixed-minded, I'm like, this says real estate sales. I'm a personal trainer. This won't work for me. He goes, just listen to it. Every time he says real estate, I want you to hear personal training. Okay. Before you know it, here you go, Jim. Here's a cassette tape. He brings me Brian Tracy. Brian Tracy leads to Zig Ziglar.
Which Brian Tracy was it? Was it The Psychology of Achievement?
Yes.
That was mine when I was 14. Yeah. That was my go-to.
There's a Psychology
That's
of
so
Achievement,
amazing.
and then that led to Psychology of Sales, which was the big cassette.
Yes.
The big one looked like a folder and had like 8 cassette tapes in it. Dude, I would wake up in the middle of the night being strangled by the cord off my headphones, because I would fall asleep listening to that stuff.
In a Walkman,
yeah.
Love it.
Does anyone even know what a Walkman is listening to this podcast?
Yeah, maybe
Golly.
not.
But anyway, yeah, so all of a sudden I learned sales, marketing, persuasion, influence. And before long, I'm like, Jim, I'm making good money in this gym, in this health club, but I think I want to open up my own place. He goes, great, let's do it. So he really was a built-in mentor. And that's the thing I want to share is, like, most of us in what we do, we have built-in mentors, but we forget to tap into them for guidance, for experience. And he was kind enough to give me guidance. And I opened up my first gym. That led to 4 more gyms in San Diego. Then I sold those 4 gyms. And years later, started coaching and consulting trainers, and then launching Fit Body Bootcamp. And here we are.
Love it.
That's amazing. For the first gym, how did you start it? Did you have enough money to start on your own? Did you have to take a loan?
No, man. I took a loan from the bank of Jim Franco.
Oh, you did?
My client, yeah. I was like, so I need about...
so he was more than a mentor.
Yeah. I go, I need $55,000, but he was a shark, dude.
Okay.
He goes, like these modern day sharks have nothing on him.
Yeah.
Yeah. He goes, all right, kid, I'm going to give you a loan. Cool, I need $55,000. All right, you're going to sign this, 8% interest. Oh, okay, great. But he's still my business partner after I pay him back on the loan. So and God bless him for it.
Can I ask what the split was?
50-50.
Wow.
I know, right? Wouldn't you want to be there to give me that loan, right? So he took not only 8% interest on the $55,000, but he had 50% equity in my first personal training business. And then he goes, here's what you're going to do. You're going to open the next however many more you want on your own dime. I was like, Jim, thank you so much. To me, if he had said 99% him, 1% me, I would have taken that deal.
Yeah. What was the dream at that point when you opened your first one? Was it like, I'm going to do this and make enough money, or did you have this dream of having multiple gyms?
No, you know what's funny is I thought I would be happy with one, because I knew I didn't like being an employee.
Yeah.
In my book, Man Up, I talk about Kathy, my manager at Carnation Cafe. Like, it was one of the busiest nights ever. And I was on the grill, and of course the Main Street Electrical Parade is going on. Customers, or as Disney calls it, guests throughout the restaurant, packed. And I feel like this pencil on the side of my face. And I look, and it's Kathy measuring the length of my sideburns, that if they were below your earlobe, Disney standards is you got to go shave them up. Now, I'm what they call backstage. No guests are ever going to see me. It's the busiest time of the day. But she was like, hey, I'm going to dock your pay. You're going to go across the street to the locker rooms and shave, knowing that if you cross the path of the parade, you're fucked. You're stuck there, and your whole crew is fucked. But that was Kathy, and God bless. It was my fault. I should have had my sideburns dialed in. But the bottom line is, I knew I was unemployable in that moment, and I knew when I was working at a gym, and a big box gym was taking 90% of the revenue and paying me just an hourly, that I wanted to work for myself. So I figured, all right, I'll have my own personal training studio, and I'll make good money. But something happens. I don't know if it's ambition, if it's drive, if it's potential, if it's purpose. For me, I think I'm a very purpose-driven person. And I was like, well, wait a minute. If this one gym, we're able to help 250, 300 clients, what if I opened one more? What if I opened one more? Before you know it, I had 5 throughout San Diego County. And I had 60 personal trainers working for me. And my number one marketing strategy, like, this is a lesson for everyone in the social media age. We're like, I don't know what funnel to use. My only funnel was every one of my gyms or personal, they weren't even gyms, bro. They were like 2,500 square foot studios.
Yeah.
Where each location was, we had to put out 50 lead boxes. And those lead boxes had the little cards that said, get a month of free enter to win a month of free personal training, give us your name and phone number and address, and tell us, do you want to lose fat, build muscle, or gain health? And they put it in the lead box, right? Of course, you can imagine the weird notes we got. I want a bigger dick, I want to get laid, right? You get those. But what I figured out is as long as we have 50 lead boxes out at any given time in restaurants where people went to get fat, ice cream stores, burger joints, et cetera, not health food stores. We tried the health food stores. We got horrible leads. As long as we do that and maintain a good relationship, going back to what you said earlier, Mikey, which is never burn a bridge. So every single restaurant owner that we were at, they got to work out in our gym for free. Not with a personal trainer, but hey, if you don't have a gym membership, come work out here for free. So they left our lead box front and center. We got the leads. Every location manager would go and empty out the leads 3 times a week, dial for dollars, bring the person in on one free workout, and then we'd close them on a 12-month package at either $600, $800, or $1,200 a month.
And those were your sales funnels.
Yes,
That's
sir.
awesome.
Was it hard going from 1 to 5 or 1 to 2?
Yeah, that's where you realize leadership. Yeah, because in the beginning, you're like, oh, I'm a badass boss, I'm a badass leader. You're just the glue holding it all together. Your enthusiasm, your passion, the fact that you will open and close the place holds it all together. And you don't need as many systems when the owner, founder, CEO is there on the premises putting out all the fires.
Yeah.
You realize how system weak you are and how horrible of a leader you are when you go to location 2, 3, 4, 5, et cetera, because you're not everywhere. Does your team have clear vision? Are they communicating well? Do they know what the sales metrics are? Does that make sense? All of a sudden, you see every glaring gap in the business. Yeah. And that's when I realized, I'm a horrible, ineffective leader. And I started building my leadership skills there.
So something that I didn't, have you read the book, The E-Myth?
Yes, sir.
Tell me your philosophy, being that you have all these franchises on systems.
My philosophy is this. People who go into a business and focus on all the systems first, I believe are procrastinating because they have this fear of success, fear of failure, fear of being called out. Maybe they feel like an imposter. I don't know. The only systems you need are marketing, sales, retention. That's it. 3 systems. Any business is starting out, start with these 3 systems first, deploy the product, and then keep improving the marketing funnels, the sales system, and the retention. And retention means if you're delivering the results or if your product is delivering the outcome that it promises, then they're going to retain. If people retain, they refer, right? And your business becomes a self-fulfilling growth process.
I have a question for you. This is actually curiosity. Did you ever have an issue feeling like you were having to rely or giving up control to bring on other people to manage things that you couldn't personally manage?
Man, I never had a problem with that, honestly. Like
I personally never have either, but I talk to a lot of people that do, actually.
Yeah, and I think that comes from a place of insecurity. I think when you're insecure or you lack confidence, you think that what if they do it better than me and I look like a dumb shit, right? Or what if they do a different process? To me, I want my leadership team to do better than me. Like I want everybody in this building to do better than me and come to me and go, hey, I don't know how our 4-day universities run in this building. Like when we get 60 new Fit Body owners on board every 2 months and we do a 4-day university, I used to know how they run. I have no idea. Do we say the Pledge of Allegiance first? Is there a salute that we do? I don't know. I have no idea because they do it better than me because our owners are successful faster today than they were when I was running the university and I was doing the selling, I was doing the marketing.
Sure.
Love it.
I'm just a figurehead.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you ended up selling your gyms.
Yes, sir.
And what did that look like? Was that a pretty sizable acquisition? Was it just enough for you to figure out the next thing?
It was a multiple 6-figure purchase. And dude, here's a lesson that remember when Jim Franco, I was training him, I even remember what he was doing the ab machine, right? And this guy had such balls, by the way. He would walk into like LA Fitness, because I was a personal trainer in LA Fitness. He would walk in, he'd see a hot woman sitting like on any kind of machine. And he would just go and like just plop right on her lap, put his arm around her, like, sup, girl? Like just start like talking. Dude, I'm talking about a 65-year-old man at the time, right? Now he's like in his late 70s. And from far away, and I'm walking up to him to train him, I'm like, oh, that must be his daughter. That must be his, he just met her, right? Like he had the gift of gab, and I learned so much from that guy. But going back to this, the sale was it was a multiple 6-figure exit. And I had no plans on selling. But remember where Jim taught me, I said, how do you make your money? He said, I take a little bit of money from a lot of people.
That stuck with you.
In my industry, in the personal training industry, till this day, trainers still sell 5 and 10 sessions at a time, paid in full. And then once you're done with those 10 sessions, I come to you and go, hey, Mikey, you ready for another 10 sessions? It's always 10 sessions at a time. So every month you're starting at $0. Jim was like, hey, how come you don't have me on recurring revenue? I go, Jim, like, who's going to pay $800 a month recurring revenue? He goes, I am. All your clients are. Why are you selling me sessions at a time? Good point. And so he taught me to put all my clients on membership, right? So instead of like Jim's charged $29 a month, what's the difference between $29 and $2,900 a month? Like, there's services that I pay for that are like $5-6 grand a month that come off my credit card right now. If I can afford it, it feels like $5 a month.
Sure.
Who gives a shit, right? But I didn't have that mindset then. But Jim forced that on me, especially on the first location because he was my business partner, right? Yeah. So I just replicated that 4 more times over. Well, so the only reason this other company, who I still can't talk about, came through and bought me out, they didn't buy my brand Premier Results. They bought out my receivables for 12 months. Fucking A. Jim just made me so much money there by that one piece of advice. They bought my receivables, the money that I had coming in for the next 12 months. And that's when now this was like 2002. And I was like, you know what? Personal trainers were always reaching out to me, asking me how I opened up 5 personal training studios. Maybe there's something to this coaching consulting thing. And that's when I kind of shifted gears after that.
Okay. And sorry, go ahead. The supplement business. When was that? When was the supplement business?
Oh, God.
I just read the book. So
oh, my God. Yeah.
We're talking about the good ones.
All right. So I was a quick adopter to the internet. So in 1990...
This was pre the 5 gyms?
Pre 5 gyms.
Okay, gotcha.
Pre 5 gyms. 1996, 1997. Oh, God. The AOL disc that would show up, and then it was dial-up.
Yep.
Right? And then you connect to the internet. And so a friend of mine sold me this used Toshiba laptop. And of course, at my mom's house, we were getting these AOL discs with 1,500 hours. I was like, oh, yeah, let me see what the internet is all about. And of course, chat rooms, right? And I was like eager to meet hot chicks in chat rooms. Man, I was Tindering before Tinder was around.
Dial-up Tinder.
Yeah. But anyway, so I'm in these chat rooms, and of course, AOL had this thing where you can search any AOL member's profile. So it was AOL Earthlink. And so I could search and see that if you're a male, you have powerlifting, bodybuilding, weightlifting in your profile, I can send you an email like, hey, bro, I have this supplement business. So I started a business called totalmuscle.com. I still have the domain name. And I bought supplements from this company called Europa, which is the company that provides supplements to all these supplement stores locally. But I figured, hey, they have overhead and rent and employees. I'm just going to put it in my spare bedroom, and I'm going to sell it out of there. And so I would send out 200 to 300 emails a night. After working as a personal trainer and a bouncer, I would send out 200 to 300 emails a night by searching people's profile. Hey man, it looks like you're into bodybuilding, so am I. I use supplements, I'm sure you do too. Instead of buying it from GNC, if you buy it from me, you'll pay $19 instead of $29 and I'll ship it to you. Problem was there was no Google, no Facebook. I had no idea how to use internet marketing. And so these fucking supplements would expire faster than I can sell them. And so I was throwing them away or drinking them and getting constipated, right? There's only so much protein powder and protein bars you could eat. And so that business quickly fell into shambles.
You had to buy a pretty sizable minimum or something?
Yeah, well, with today's math, no. But back then, a $10,000 minimum order was a lot for me, right? And so that might as well have been the equivalent of, I don't know, like a $2.3 million purchase now. Yeah, so a few of those, and then you end up throwing the majority of it away several cycles. Before you know it, you're like, okay, I'm out. I'm done. Yeah.
All right, so let's talk after the 5 gyms. What inspired the inception of Fit Body Bootcamp?
Good question. So, 2003, I started coaching and consulting personal trainers, and I create this software called High Tech Trainer. Again, going back to our interview with you, Mikey, proof that the path that you lay out for yourself isn't the one that you're going to end up taking for success. High Tech Trainer was going to be on Palm Pilots. You guys remember Palm Pilots before the iPhone, right? And so we had the Palm Pilots. Yeah.
I don't remember Palm Pilots.
Yeah, bro.
You were skating at the time.
Yeah. You were making all this dough skating in different countries.
This was when I was telling you to put stickers on your board.
Okay.
I wanted your life back then. Yeah. And so there was these Palm Pilots, which was pretty much like a mini iPad, I suppose, right? But with like inferior abilities. But the idea was that when people can afford a personal trainer in a gym, gyms like Bally's and 24 Hour Fitness could buy a high-tech trainer. And it's a front desk system that comes with 15 Palm Pilots, and a customer pays $40, $50 more per month on top of their membership, and they walk around and put themselves through a workout. And when they come back and dock it, it uploads and says, hey, here's what you did last time, here's what you should do this time, shows you exercise pictures, etc. Little did I know that the iPhone was going to come a few years later,
Yeah.
right? And so I started High Tech Trainer and started coaching and consulting personal trainers, teaching them how to open up their business, how to market their business, etc. Well, High Tech Trainer failed miserably because these Palm Pilots were walking out of every test gym that we would put in, right? Nobody's fucking honest.
Yeah.
Check. Right? It's like, wait a minute, we just sold you your system. Actually, it wasn't, dude, I went to Chicago to talk to corporate office at Bally's, and they go, we'll give you 3 health clubs to test it in, but on your dime. I'm like, hey, Jim, I need to borrow more money. Jim was my business partner in that one too, right? And so we put out 15 Palm Pilots in every location plus a computer. Well, I swear, within 3 weeks, all 3 locations had 3 Palm Pilots left total.
Oh, man.
Total. Like, where are these Palm Pilots going? I have no idea, right? But they're obviously walking out of the door. They grew legs. So this wasn't working. In the meantime, Sprint reaches out to us. And they're like, hey, we saw one of these Palm Pilots at a gym in Chicago, and we have this thing called the Jukebox. Could you create a workout program to go on our flip phones? Talk to my programmer, whose wife I used to train. Right? She was a personal training client. And he's like, yeah. So we had the very first workout app ever that I know of on the Sprint
Crazy.
Jukebox.
Wow.
It was $2.50 a month, and it was a 50-50 rev share with Sprint. Multiply that by their 29 million subscribers at the time. Now, they weren't all using our High Tech Trainer workout, but we were getting some sizable checks at a time when we needed those sizable checks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so again, little did Sprint know, little did I know that iPhone was just on the cusp in late 2007. And so by that time, the Jukebox went away and that went away, but my coaching and consulting business was blowing up. Like, I was helping personal trainers open up their gyms and boot camps and killing it. Well, once the economy crashes in 2008, no one wants to afford a personal trainer. So if personal trainers aren't getting business, they're not doing business with me. All of a sudden, I'm like, shit, what do I do? My wife and I get to talking, and I'm like, hey, honey, I think these outdoor boot camps, there's something to these things. Because personal trainers are running them outdoors in parks and stuff, but you can only do that in states that's, the weather's friendly, like California, Florida.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not it's a seasonal thing. And trainers always treated those things like a redheaded stepchild. So it's like, I have 10 one-on-one personal training clients who make most of my money, but on weekends I run boot camps and make an additional $3,000 a month, right? Mm-hmm. But I thought that now that the economy's crashed, the new personal training model can be one-on-many instead of one-on-one. And if we can just put it indoors, we've solved the weather problem. We've made it a legitimate business.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And so I took advantage of an opportunity, which was the economic crash. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to test this out. So I opened 5 locations. Well, 1 first in Costa Mesa. And I was so unsure that it was going to work that there's a place called All-Star Cheer and Gymnastics in Costa Mesa. I was like, hey, you guys don't do any gymnastics in the mornings, right? They're like, no, kids don't come until 1 or 2 o'clock. Great. Can I pay you $500 a month to rent out your place from 5 in the morning till about 12 noon? Yeah. I ran boot camps there. Since we couldn't obviously have battle ropes and stuff attached to their walls, it was pretty much body weight, but I was running classes there. We now call them sessions, like personal training sessions, 3-4 classes a day, making like $13,000-$14,000 in half a day, right? Per month. So I opened up. The next one I opened up in an industrial spot. So now I'm leasing out a spot, opened it up. Now I can put furniture sliders and battle ropes and kettlebells, and man, now we're making $20,000-$25,000 a month. Next one we opened up in another industrial spot. So we see the model worked and we just rolled it out. So that was in 2009. By 2012, we decided to franchise. So we had 5 of our own locations. 2012, we franchise and start selling the model to anyone who wants to buy in. And here we are 2018, and we have 700 and some odd locations, and we're adding about 1 location a day on the map.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So the economic crash helped me come up with an idea of a multi-million-dollar business.
Yeah. Was that, so crash happened, was it like really quick when you started the next company, or did you really feel this like, holy shit, I'm losing my money and my life's changing?
Oh, I felt the pain.
You did?
I felt the pain. I thought we were going to lose our house.
So it wasn't just a seamless?
No.
Okay.
It was out of pain. Again, out of pain and fear, we start getting resourceful. You can do one of 2 things. You could either get resourceful and resilient, or you could retreat.
Yeah.
Right? I chose to get resourceful and resilient because I knew retreating meant living with my mom and dad, with my wife, and 2 brand new babies. That ain't going to happen. Right? I'm not going to live with my Armenian mom and dad and have them fucking, it's not going to happen. Okay. That's a whole therapy session we're going to go through, but that ain't going to happen. Yeah. So the fear of that was like, I'm going to have to get resourceful and save this house.
Do you think fear has been a big driving factor for you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I was telling Grant Cardone, I said, look, You know, I know a lot of guys who are Navy SEALs because we support the Patriot Tour that Marcus Luttrell does. He's the guy from Lone Survivor. So I know a lot of guys who are Navy SEALs, and I help them in their careers as they transition. And every single one of them will tell you, fear heightens your senses. You think about the caveman, right? If he's hungry, but he's afraid. He's looking out of that cave door, looking at the apple, but he knows there's a fucking saber-toothed tiger somewhere ready to pounce on his ass, right? And so fear heightens your sense of sight and smell and speed and instincts. Navy SEALs use fear to be sharper at what they do to kill or capture the enemy. Entrepreneurs need to use fear to become more resourceful, resilient, and use speed of implementation. Fear isn't always a bad thing. People think, oh, fear, and they have like an acronym, some bullshit acronym about fear. Fear is good if you use it to fuel you instead of to retreat like a little bitch.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you. You described having a chip on your shoulder and that drove you.
Yeah.
Channeling your energy, and I'm making sure I'm on here.
Yeah.
Would you say that drove you in a lot of what you did?
Listen, you. All right, so I think what you're alluding to is
basically how are you like that?
I have a specific question. And this is a personal one. Yeah.
I'll
just ask that and then you tell
Sure.
me what you think. So for me, I do that. I have at some points in life a lot of anger, and I've learned how to channel that into productivity.
Yes.
For me, what I struggle with is once that anger's gone, filling it with, and what I've figured out for me is routines and reading. What do you feel when the anger's not, or the chip on your shoulder isn't there?
I like to keep it there.
You like to, yeah.
Yeah, so I always have a fire in my eyes, chip on my shoulder, and I like it that way, and hunger in my belly. And the rage, the anger, for me comes from, this is going to sound twisted, but the biggest blessing I had in my life, which was being molested by 2 older boys between the ages of 4 and 5. Again, hindsight, you see the benefit of that, because that taught me how to be resilient. That taught me how to overcome the worst fucking adversity that anyone can overcome. My dear friend Lewis House talks about the time when he was raped, and in his book, Mask of Masculinity, great book. And he and I went to lunch after he wrote his book, and we just started talking about this stuff. You know, we really connected on that level, obviously. And Tim Grover in his book Relentless talks about if you can, and I think he talked about Dwayne Wade. He said he told Dwayne that if you can just take that rage and channel it and control it for 48 minutes on the court, you're going to bring so much fucking thunder to your opponents. But if you let that rage get the best of you, you're going to end up on the bench.
Yeah.
Right? And so I realized I've been using that chip on my shoulder, the fact that I've got a point to prove, that the fact that I just didn't trust anyone for the longest time because of what happened to me as a kid, and I just needed to become more powerful, right? Because I figured, and any psychologist will tell you this, when someone's been raped or molested, they want money, power, strength. There's a book called, what is the book called? The Body Keeps the Score. And as I'm reading through it, and it talks about people who have gone through trauma and emotional, physical, mental, sexual abuse, it doesn't matter what level of abuse, the same part of the brain of the fight or flight lights up, right? And so he talks about that boys who have been molested or raped end up growing up to become these aggressive athletes and want to become like powerful and financially, right? And use steroids, check, all 3 boxes for me. I used so much steroids that I just would fucking be angry at the world, because in my head, I want to be big and strong because this is never going to happen to me again. Of course it's not going to happen to me. Now, at that point, I was in my 20s when I'm using steroids, but the little kid in me is like, I want to be big and strong and muscular to protect myself. I want to be financially so well off that I'm going to insulate and isolate myself from all the bad people in the world. Now, that's your subconscious mind saying that. Your conscious mind is just like, must get bigger, more muscles, must make more money, must have security, must isolate, right? And so to me, once I worked with a therapist in my 30s, this was just like 5 or 6 years ago, and I was like, what the fuck is the matter with me? Because sometimes when I lose control of this rage, I just want to fucking burn down everything. There'd be times in my early 30s, and I could just walk away from all of this. Just burn it all fucking down to the ground and walk away, right? From my relationship to my health to my business. I'm being that transparent with you. My wife would hate me saying that, but that's the truth. And so I was like, this isn't healthy. I got to talk to a therapist about this. And so I did. And for 16 months, we did the work. And I was in this cycle of shame, rage, confusion. I was ashamed of what had happened to me. I would then fucking get angry about the fact that it happened to me. How could it happen to me? And then I was confused. Why did it happen to me? Did I do something to make those two older boys molest me? Like, that's kind of fucking shit runs through your subconscious mind, through your brain, right? And so you start acting out on it. And so now I use that rage because it was just a blip on my timeline. I didn't do anything to instigate those dudes to do that. It happened, doesn't define me. And so I still channel that rage, and I never want to lose it.
Anytime I've ever been with a therapist, right? Yeah. And my wife and I go a lot. That's actually a really common thing for us. And their ultimate goal, I think, is to like take the skill or the thing that I've learned to kind of channel my direction out of there. Yeah. And what I just heard you say, do you have like a special therapist that came up with this, like, I'm going to teach you how to use the rage? Or did he go, Bedros, we're getting rid of the rage? And you went, absolutely not.
Good question. So before I met Kevin, I had two other therapists. One of them was trying to neuter me. Yeah. Right? And I didn't want that. Yeah. I literally felt like I was being declawed, defanged. The other one was so new at the art of therapy that I had her wrapped around my finger, and I would just deflect, and we'd kill an hour and never did the deep dive. Even though I wanted the help, she wasn't able to get through. When I found Kevin, I noticed like one of the bullet points on his website, and it's called Turning Point Therapy in Brea. God, I've sent him so much business. He's got like 26 people that he's gained from me now. I love the guy to pieces. He's got no eyebrows. Old dude with no eyebrows. Like, the whole time you're looking like, that's it, you got no fucking eyebrows. Coolest cat ever though. Still comes here and works with my team now. Very involved in my life. But so one of the bullet points on his website was that he works with like high performers, athletes, Olympic athletes, CEOs, right? People in high risk positions who need to keep their edge. So he'll help them get over the thing. Like in my case, he helped me understand the shame, rage, confusion. He was like, and by the way, the whole like, you didn't do anything, so the shame, that can go away because you didn't do anything. There's something called a Rite of Passage, where a boy becomes a man, right? Like knights have squires, and the Rite of Passage is to turn that squire into a knight. And these two older boys took advantage of that, like as a young boy. So as he explained that to me, that hill went down. So I mean, imagine it's three big mountains, right? Rage, shame, confusion. And then all of a sudden the rage was like, you know, how dare this happen to me? Like, how could this happen to me? Why didn't they protect me? And in Armenia, Soviet countries, they call them babushkas, the grandmas. They're always around, Lord. Like, they know everything, man. Like, they are the true fucking mobs. And they know what's going on in that house, who's cheating on who got a new whatever, right? And so all these grandmas, and it's a weird environment there in Armenia, but their doors are all open. So as a little kid, I could just run into your grandma's house, and there's always food sitting out and eat, and you know, they're okay with it. I mean, you wouldn't do that here because that's a home invasion robbery, right? But their whole thing was, but if we came in and didn't wash our hands, they'd pull us by our ears and they'd slap us around, right? Like corporal punishment. And I'm like, wait a minute. You make me wash my hands, and if I didn't, I got the shit beat out of me by some strange grandma because I was just trying to eat her food. But yet you weren't protecting me when you obviously saw this happening. Well, guess what? Kevin's like, so don't you think if they saw it happening, they would have torn those boys limb to limb? I'm like, oh my God, yeah. But the whole time, the chip on my shoulder that I'm carrying is, they probably saw it and they did nothing about it. How dare this happen to me, right? And so as a therapist talks you through the things, and the way Kevin described it is, look, dude, you've got this beach ball and you're holding it underwater and you're just trying to use your might. He goes, let's just deflate it so that you don't have to use your might, your will. It's there, it's underwater. And so that's what happened. But I said, Kevin, I also realize this edge that I have is because I do need my back against the wall all the time. I do need people to tell me I can't do it. I do need this anger. And he goes, great, you can keep it. You can keep it. Like, I'm not trying to take it away. He never was trying to take it away. So I think it's finding the right therapist.
Wow. Yeah. That's amazing. That's huge.
So essentially, don't get rid of it. Keep channeling it towards productivity.
Yeah. And he even told me, I go, Kevin, look, if I wasn't obsessed with business, I'd be obsessed like in a gutter with alcohol or drugs or whatever. He goes, look, for guys like you, guys like you, you're going to be obsessed with something. It might as well be good.
Yeah.
So Kevin's like, let's just get you on a good obsession. And he even told me, he said, Alcoholics Anonymous, when every alcoholic gets a sponsor, like some other guy who's used to be an alcoholic, that's not for the guy who's a drunk. That's for the sponsor, right? To hold him accountable. The guy who founded Alcoholics Anonymous, he kept trying to get sober and he couldn't. He felt like a loser. He finally gave up. He goes, you know what? I guess I'm just going to be a wino the rest of my life. But he went around helping all the bums around like, hey man, just don't drink for a day. Can you just not drink for 2 days? And before you know it, 16 weeks later, his wife's like, you know, ever since you've been helping all the winos not drink, it's been 16 weeks you haven't had a drink. It's because right? Like that's what he's doing to hold himself accountable.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that's, to me, that was a big aha where that's concerned. But anyway, a good therapist is not going to try and neuter you. They're going to say, hey, look, let's channel that obsession towards something good. He goes, you're always going to build more companies. You're always going to build empires. And no, by the way, you might want to consider getting your wife involved on board with this so she doesn't feel like it's the other woman. That wasn't my statement. That was his statement. Like, oh my God. And you know what else he taught me? So many stupidly easy stuff. He goes, Bedros, when you're on a 3-day speaking gig somewhere, you know, if you just send her a text message, hey, I love you, I care for you, emojis, like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Fucking genius, right?
That's my
the
world,
simplest things, man. And he drew this word picture. He goes, imagine a giant nest. She's in it with your 2 babies. And she's like, hey, we have everything we need. We got the biggest nest in town, right? And all she wants is Papa Bird to spread its wings and protect. But Papa Bird flew off for 3 days or 2 weeks, and no one's heard from him. But he's trying to build a bigger nest when we already have the biggest nest. But if she just hears like, hey, just so you know, I'm here, but I'm thinking of you and the kids, and here's a video or whatever, made all the difference. And I got her involved in the business. Now she doesn't feel like the business is the other woman. And all those things came from Kevin. I wish I can say I have the brilliance to come up with those myself. It's from a great therapist.
Huh.
So let's talk about, we just met your lovely wife out there. Let's talk about where we are for anybody that wants to see the HQ. Check out Mikey's vlog. You guys did a little tour through it.
Yeah.
Tell us about the business today of Fit Body Bootcamp.
Yeah, so the business today is this. We are the anti-franchise franchise. By that, I mean, we're not going to charge our franchisees $150,000 to $200,000 to buy in and then buy all your equipment from us for another $80,000. That's why Quiznos went out of business. They were overcharging, and then they're like, hey, buy the meat and cheese and bread from us at a 9% markup, where Subway was just negotiating better deals for their franchisees, right? And so I realized that if I want to be the anti-franchise franchise, I'm going to do things differently. I'm not going to charge a monthly royalty fee based on percentage of gross revenue. So if you're making $20,000, I'm charging you 6%. If you're making $30,000, I'm charging you. Ours is $997 flat fee, no matter how much you make. You keep the rest, right?
Oh,
You just
wow.
want $1,000 a month. That's it. Our buy-in fee is $30,000 or $35,000. I think it's $35,000 now. Much lower, probably one of the lowest out there. And so this is why we hit the Inc. list 3 years in a row. We hit Entrepreneur Magazine's 500 fastest growing franchises this year again. We're number 385 this year out of 175,000 franchises. And I believe in giving fanatical support. If I see my franchisees, I'm not going to turn and hide from them. I'm actually like, hey, what's up? What's going on? Because we have a fair business exchange. I want one franchisee to own multiple locations. And for that to happen, I've got to make sure that first experience is so awesome that they want to do business with me more. And so we have fanatical support. This entire bottom floor is dedicated to operations, like people working with our franchisees. Upstairs is everybody else who make the sales, drive the traffic, make the videos and all that shit, right? But my operational team is 3 times bigger than any other franchise because I believe in fanatical support. You call us, we're going to pick up the phone on the first ring unless it's a weekend, right? And so those are the things that I believe in customer service at the highest level. And by doing that, instead of having 2,500 locations and 2,500 owners, I'm going to have 2,500 locations, probably 800 owners at the pace we're going at, which means higher profits for us because I'll have a smaller team here, right? Every one of our franchisees will have multiple locations. They'll make more money. I don't have to bring on duds as franchisees because every time you get a new franchisee, you don't know if they're winners or not. So my model is completely different. We do all the marketing for them. We drive their traffic for them. They get the leads, as I told you guys.
Yeah.
And so if we do all the heavy lifting for you, negotiation of your lease and help you with the build out process and hiring and firing staff, well then guess what? You're going to do what you love best, which is either making the sandwich or training the clients.
You're doing all that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We support them in that. Yeah.
Okay.
Like if our HR person needs to get on the phone with their location manager to talk them through a firing, that happens.
That sounds incredible.
Yeah, I don't know of any other franchise that does that.
I don't either. It's funny you said that because every time I've ever heard people going into franchising something, it sounds so expensive.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
And it's cool that you looked at it and went, that's where the bar is, but that's not practical, or that's not what will make a good franchise. I love where the franchise is not a franchise. That makes sense.
And you know what? It's funny. Entrepreneur Magazine in 2013 or 2014 wrote that in an article about us. Like they're the anti-franchise franchise. And I took that as a diss. Like, how dare you? I'm trying to be a legitimate franchise, right? Yeah. But I realized I wear that as a badge of honor now. I keep my buy-in price low because I want the average person to be able to afford it.
Yeah.
I keep my royalties low because I want to make sure that they keep their profits and not just I'm feeding them to death That's notorious in the franchising industry. And oh, by the way, we're going to give you fanatical support and not charge you more for it. And oh, by the way, if I see you somewhere, I'm actually going to talk to you because we don't have an adversarial relationship. We're actually allies.
And it was interesting coming in the door, looking at the training process of onboarding your franchisees.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so when we get a brand new franchisee, as soon as the sale is made, they're handed to our operations department downstairs where we start finding them the perfect area in their city. Like, this is the intersection that has the highest demographics of women who are 30 to 60 years old, because that's our market. And oh, by the way, our next Fit Body Bootcamp University is 3 weeks away. Let's schedule you to come out. You can't open your doors until you do the Fit Body University. And the Fit Body University is 4 days of indoctrination, training, not just about our culture and here's the rules and regulations, like you can't open a juice bar, you can't have a baby child care in there. A lot of the 3 to 4 or 5 day trainings that franchise will do are all the things you're not allowed to do, right? Ours is like, hey, and here's how you're going to market. Here's how you're going to get referrals. Mm-hmm. You only have one chance to make a first impression. You're going to wrap your car, and these are the car wrap designs we give you. Like, we go into the deep of the marketing, selling, retention, how to get involved in the community. Just half a day is spent on the things you can or can't do. The rest of it is actually like business coaching and mentoring.
Yeah.
And so they walk out of this building with this confidence that, okay, I know a lot, and what I don't know, I can call, and odds are someone's going to pick up on the first ring. That's some serious confidence for a franchisee.
I know we got to start wrapping up.
We have like 5 more.
I want to touch on your book because you have a book that comes out on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Let's talk about 2 things. Tell us about the book, and then tell us about digital products. Anything you can. I know we only have 5 minutes, but
Sure. Digital products are real simple. Everyone's got some kind of a skill that they can translate into a digital product. And that skill could be, for example, I was telling you guys about the power lifter, right? He's a 9-time world record holder power lifter who tells me, I'm the world's strongest man right now, but I'm broke. Well, I bet you a lot of people want to know how to bench, squat, and deadlift. Create a digital PDF of a course that takes them through an 8-week power training program, sell it for $29, have 3 upsells that now bring the cart value to $89. Maybe have the third upsell as a continuity where it's free trial for the first 30 days. And if you like it, you're on the Powerlifting Newsletter of the Month Club for $19 more. Now he's building recurring membership. And now this motherfucker's loaded. So there's your deal on continuity or digital products. And you could do this with follow-along videos, turn a Word doc into a PDF, you name it, membership site, done. Anyone, like bikini competitor can do that. How to skate, you can do that, right? How to surf, like I've got a friend who does $380,000 a year because he got a scholarship to play basketball at Michigan State. So he just teaches high school kids in his digital course on how to be a better basketball player, like how to shoot free throws. What the fuck basketball players do? Anyway, so that's that. So anyway, money's there. People just need to take it. What was the next question?
The book. Let's talk about the book.
Yeah. So as I said earlier, like I was a horrible leader. I was ineffective at communication. I had no clarity of vision. If you told me how many Fit Body Bootcamps do you want back then, I would have said a lot. And if you said, when do you want them by? I would have said as soon as possible. And that is not a clear communication when you have 44 employees working for you, right?
Yeah.
And so needless to say, in the beginning, Fit Body Bootcamp was struggling because I was a very bad communicator, poor vision, indecisive. My team used to consist of employees. Employees clock in a little late, clock out a little early, do the bare minimum. Teams are very driven to fight against the opponents and win. And we're definitely in a fucking fight right now, I'll tell you that. And I will always win. And so with that, as I manned up, and the first man up process happened to me when I realized I've got a business partner who's a good human being, but we're just not supposed to be business partners. But I loved him so much that I kept letting him screw up our franchise. And so one day I'm driving from home to talk to him, and literally in the car I'm telling myself, it's time to man up, dude. It's time to man up. Because all I wanted to do was take a detour to not have this talk with him. But I just said, it's time to man up. It's time to man up. All the way to the office, had the talk with him. It was a relief for him. It was a relief for me. The fear in my head that I had that, this was going to be a big blowout never happened, right? And from that moment on in 2013, it was one it's time to man up moment at a time. And today we have this massive franchise that's valued at 9 figures, and we're just blessed and growing, and I want to pay it forward by teaching the 6 pillars of entrepreneurial leadership and peak performance in my book, Man Up.
Yep. And it's coming out, just so people know watching this, it's coming out, what's the date? It's September?
September 18th, yeah.
So just around the time of this interview, check it out. I read about a quarter, I got it 2 days ago, I'm about a quarter way through. Genuinely, I'm super into the Tony Robbins, Brian Tracy's, really into it. for a transformation. I will say I really liked how you said it's like humaning up. I took it as it's going to be like this really abrasive, but it's actually a really cool process of how to get your life in order and get from your family to health to everything. So,
oh my God, dude, I realized that as humans, we're top of the food chain, yet I was living like an animal. My car was a mess, right? I let my health go again, just like I did in high school. I let it go again. My relationship was eroding. My finances were taking a dip big time. And I realized it's because I wasn't humaning up, right? And so people go, well, it's man up. Can I woman up? Because if I'm a woman, just human up to your highest potential because as humans, we're top of the food chain, but sometimes we forget to act like it.
Yeah.
And so I'm always working towards my highest potential, and I think more people ought to.
I love that. How can people get a hold of you or find you?
Best way to get a hold of me is on Instagram, Bedros Keuilian, or on my website, manup.com.
Awesome. Bedros, we know you got to go. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks,
really appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys.